So until we're able to have more of a instance where the athletes have more of a voice and role in the decision is being made, I think we're still gonna have a potential for issues.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams. And on today's Throwdown Thursday edition, we will have a special edition that focuses on the current state of college athletics. Over the past few weeks, I have had the opportunity to be an observer on the front lines of all of this as I attended the men's Final Four in San Antonio, having individual conversations with members of the Drake Group and the Drake Group Educational Fund. Shout out to Dr. Donna Lopiano and Julie Sumner for a great conference with the SAC Symposium. Had a chance to meet in person the Honorable Robert Bobby Scott, U.S. Representative from the 3rd District of Virginia. Shout out to Hampton Roads. He is a ranking member of the Committee on Education and Labor. Had the opportunity to help secure student athletes to attend the SAC Symposium. And I also spent time on the campus of George Washington University and Howard University speaking to student athletes, coaches, faculty members, don't forget the faculty members, and administration about the CKA's project, organizational research, and the things we're doing. So since this is a special episode, I needed to go to a special member of our family joining me today, Miss Cassandra Ramsey. She's an independent attorney, president of the Drake Group, and she is the NIL consultant for the CKA project. Cassandra, thank you for joining us on your maiden voyage on the Odd Coaches podcast. How are you?
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm good, excited to be here.
All right. So in segment one, we're going to talk about what we saw at the Final Four and our reactions to that. Segment two, we'll talk about reactions from the SAC Symposium. And in segment three, we're going to transfer theory into practice because there's a lot of stuff going on real time. So let's get started. The Final Four gave me an opportunity to do a ton of networking and professional development. And during these segments, there was a lot of topics discussed. And one of the topics was navigating the job search in this era of player empowerment. Had a chance to speak briefly with Delana Sarden, who is the principal director of the Parker Executive Search. Cassandra, my question to you is, what would you look for in a coach in today's era? Because I'm sitting in a room full of coaches. They're young coaches, they're middle-aged coaches, they're old coaches, and they're all trying to get this great big head coaching job now. So if you're in charge, what kind of skills would you want in a coach today?
Well, I think one that can somewhat adapt to the changing climate within college athletics right now, right? So you have to be able to have the full conversation with your potential athletes about what they're gonna do like playing for you, but also if the athlete is interested in NIL or any opportunities, how they can take advantage of those opportunities and that academics, right? So now it's kind of like before NIL and potential revenue sharing and things like that. The focus would likely be on what I can provide to you athletically, and then how I may be able to support you in the classroom. But now is how can I support you on the field or on the court and support you in the classroom, and how can we put all of those things together to allow you to use any opportunity that you may get with NIL or any other money making opportunity that you may get as a college athlete, to use all of these things, playing your sport, being in class, entrepreneurial opportunities, to use all of these things to set yourself up for life after sports whenever that day comes for you.
Yeah. So for me, as I coached and been through the coaching window, I was taught what kind of players can you get, your X's and O's, what's your academic strategy. Yeah, and that meeting, none of that really kind of mattered. It was more of how you can manage all of these different things. And yeah, it's just hard right now to do that. So joining us is a very special guest to me. So through the NABC, which is kind of apropos that we're talking about that, we're a part of something called the Mentor Circle. And one of my mentees actually lives in France, just outside of Paris, if I'm not mistaken. So, Francois, can you introduce yourself to the audience, and then we'll jump right back to our discussion? And thank you. I have no idea what time it is in France, but
It
it's
is
good to see you, sir.
very appreciate, coach. It is 3 p.m. in France. Nice to meet you, everyone. I'm François Zebazé. I am an assistant coach in Versailles, France, and I like Coach Adam Storio. I'm his mentee. I'm very proud to learn from him, and very proud to be at this program.
All right. So we're going to continue on with the discussion. Francois, we're going to talk about revenue sharing and collective bargaining. CKA Safe Project is doing research on student athletes' thought on collective bargaining because, quite frankly, it's just a lot for student athletes to know about. And people are making a lot of decisions and thoughts based on very minimal knowledge of collective bargaining. Cassandra, with the House decision looming and the split looking like 75% football, 15% men's basketball, 5% women's basketball, and kind of 5% everything else, what are your thoughts on the direction we're going with this? Take it any way you want to.
Um, I think that whether the settlement is approved or not, right, we're going to continue to have some potential issues and maybe potential for further litigation, because these decisions are just kind of have been made, and for athletes who opt out, or they may have questions. I mean, it is kind of like, how did we decide who would get what percentage, and why, and how is that breakdown going to continue to go over the course of the 10 years? And it's kind of like you mentioned, collective bargaining. That's really what the issue is, right? Is that this decision is being made without any type of um, collective bargaining or quasi collective bargaining entity for the athletes. So that's why I think that there will continue to be questions and potential issues, because in the professional ranks, they make decisions like this, essentially have a cap. It's collectively bargained for through the Players Association. So until we're able to have more of a instance where the athletes have more of a voice and role in the decision is being made, I think we're still going to have a potential for issues.
Yeah. So, Francois, your lens is so unique because you work with international student athletes, and many of which would like to come to the States. What thoughts, if any, do you have on kind of the words going around in the US? Do you guys even talk about that, or just share your thoughts on the the players you work with who want to come to the States? What are their thoughts on all of this going on, if you have any?
Yeah, definitely. For all international players, from Africa, from France, the dream is to play college basketball in United States. And on my part, many of my friends played college basketball, and this opportunity changed their life. And now we seeing a different situation. Things are changing. I saw, if correct me if I did a mistake, but one player of Duke, the center, Mul, is going to face, paper difficulty for the next season. He's a top prospect. He's going to be an NBA player, and now is you every international player that I know thinks that it's going to be more difficult for a player to have opportunity, to play at the college level, and that's what now we are not very happy of the situation, and we think that despite only basketball, it is a great opportunity for all those players to come and study and learn, and you know and learn a new culture, learn new thing, and it's more than basketball that is gonna change for those players.
Yeah, Cassandra, any thoughts on what Francois said? Because that is real right now.
Um, you know, Actually, I'm glad to hear his perspective, because I'm not as well versed on like international students and things coming over to play college. But one thing that I do know is that many of them are not, or most of them are not able to engage in like the NIL opportunities and things due to their like visa status. So I would be interested to hear more of your perspective on that if you could.
So, Francois, Can you speak on the knowledge you have on NIL and any of the reactions of the players you're working with?
You're just talking about the change of a paying player.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yes, I think that for international player, the most difficult thing will be, for the player I know this, the difference between US and international player. I think that it's very difficult, because if every player are not paid, I think it's okay, like it was done in a few years ago. But right now, it is very difficult to understand for a player to know that he's going to have restriction on opportunity. He could be a better player, but he's not going to be treated equal. And this is a big deal for international player, because we, as far as I know, America is the best place in the world, and it's a place that everybody has the same opportunity. And now the message is maybe different. They say, okay, maybe because of where you come from, you are not going to have the same opportunity than other, and that's a misunderstood for international player.
Yeah. And to close this segment, I want to talk a little bit about roster management strategy. I had the opportunity to sit in a session at the Final Four with Adrian Donovan, who is the president of ASCP Sports Partners, Adrian Wojnarowski, Woj, who's the general manager of St. Bonaventure, Mike McDonald, who was a college head coach, and Joe Branch, who was the head of on-court basketball strategy. And the big takeaway is the money situation is crazy, and teams are trying to build rosters. And if you're a power four school with football, you're not going to have as much money as maybe a basketball centered uh, conference like the Big East, something like that. So, Cassandra, again, the money situation is crazy. Share your thoughts on building a roster in this day and age.
Yeah, so if the house settlement is approved, that's one of the big talking points was like roster management and roster caps, and you had athletes who were offered positions or scholarships or a spot on the team for the upcoming school year. Like high school athletes who thought that they had a plan in place where they were going to play in college, and then in the school's preparation for the house settlement and the roster change that's coming, we're having these athletes have their opportunities rescinded so that they can make adjustments for the impending changes. So I think that that is gonna create an issue for roster management for all sports, not just football, because the athletic department has to consider, roster spots for men's and women's athletes, because you're going to have Title IX playing a role in that. So I think that we may end up with, again, more questions than answers when it comes to some of these issues that are supposed to be addressed under the house settlement, because in some ways it's um maybe kind of complicating it a little bit more, but certainly changing it. So
Okay, and Francois, I'm going to let you close. You coach in Europe right now. You coach student athletes who I can't even say student athletes. You coach athletes who want to come over. Has there been any difference the last few years since this has happened with the athletes you work with and the basketball players you work with? Has there been any change in terms of coming over to the States, or any thoughts you have on that?
Yes, for all the player I know, there's more opportunity for them, but it is also changing because now college basketball is giving different opportunity, just not about playing on a long term. Because I have some player that know they just come and they play, they play 1 year, and they try to play in Europe. And I think that now it is different because they have more an idea of staying for the long term, try to end the study, or try to do a long term time in school. And yeah, it's different now. Player won't understand that they have to go to study. They have to get a degree. They have to find a balance, and not just go all in on basketball, all in on sport.
All right. So, fans, in segment two, we'll talk about our reactions to the Drake Group's SAC Symposium at Howard University and a lot of different things that were discussed there. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast. Hi, everyone. Dr. Keith Adams here. And for over 30 years, I've dedicated my life to helping student athletes succeed, not just on the fields and the courts, but in the classroom and beyond. And that's why I founded the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project understands that finding the balance between academics and athletics is crucial for long-term success. That's why the CKA Save Project offers a range of programs, including personalized consulting, mentorship, and coming in 2027, our innovative Gap Year Basketball Academy designed to assist both young men and women reach their full potential both on and off the court. I'm incredibly excited to announce that the CK Save Project is now partnering with the Cascade Sports Network. This partnership will allow us the opportunity to amplify our message and reach even more student athletes through the Odd Coaches Podcast and other exciting initiatives. Join the CKA Save Project and the Cascade Sports Network as we empower the next generation of student athletes. Visit CKA on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org to learn more. Let's work together to find the balance and help unlock your potential. Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast. And in segment two, there is a changing landscape in sports, and the SAC Symposium, sponsored by the Drake Group at Howard University, gave an outstanding opportunity to hear about the current state of college athletics. I had a chance to hang out with Cassandra, and we got to experience this together. So the first thing I want to kind of talk about is, in your opinion, Cassandra, what are some of the workable solutions college can do to kind of make it better for the student athletes in terms of the post-house settlement? What do you think is one, maybe two workable solutions?
I think first, arming them with as much information as possible, making sure that they understand what the house settlement is, how it came to be, and what the potential ramifications are for them. And then what the opportunities are for them, what new things they may be able to do under the settlement, what things they may now not be able to do under the settlement, what is required. One of the things that will be required is for athletes to disclose their NIL deals. So making sure that they have all the information that they need to make sure that they remain compliant. And another thing that I think the schools may be able to do for the athletes who are really interested in NIL and the entrepreneurial opportunities is maybe finding some way to integrate those things more into their educational pursuits. At the school, I think that was something that was kind of talked about during the symposium, was how to integrate what they're doing more into the educational side of being a college student.
Yeah, for me, all of that is great. Can we just line up the transfer portal calendar with the academic calendar? Can we do that so we don't have a lot of the situations we're going to talk about in segment three? So, Francois, as an international rep for us, what's one thing we can do on our end in the United States to better help the experience of the international student athlete, if you could speak to that? What's one kind of thing that would, if this could be done, this could help the players I'm working with?
Yeah, definitely. I think that like it's always done, get this opportunity for international player. I think that's great. And I want to share you a story. Maybe you live in the US, but when you come, and I'm from Cameroon in Africa, and I'm living in Paris, France. But when you have a kid coming from Cameroon to United States, even if he don't play professional, he can change life of his family. And I think that the world for me is keep going, getting opportunity to have those kids to get opportunity not just to play basketball, to play football, but to have a better education. And that's the most what giving opportunity. I will say the word that's the most important for those young men.
All right. So the next thing we talked about at the SAC symposium was kind of the changing academic playbook for college athletes. And the CKA Save Project is developing a postgraduate academy for men and women basketball players, in part to provide alternatives for student athletes who want to do both and try to better understand the landscape that's going on. Cassandra, what are your thoughts on academics and the role academics is playing in today's academic world? Is academics just totally forgotten? What do you think?
I don't think it's totally forgotten, and I don't think that it's minimized or anything any much more than it may have been before. It's just, now athletes are able to make, money through NIL, so that's really the only real change. But I think that there's always been somewhat of a struggle for an athlete to meet both their athletic demands and their academic demands. And, you know, having the opportunity to major in the things that they want to do. I don't think that NIL or anything has made those considerations any more difficult. I think that it's the same issue and that needs to be addressed to help the athletes be able to more integrate what they want to do academically along while they're trying to be successful and perform well in their sports. So, I think one of the things that we talked about was maybe extending the amount of time that they may be able to have to pursue their degree, after their athletics. And I think that that is definitely something that should be considered because the demands of the classroom and the demands of performing well athletically, academically are not going to change. So it's how can we change some things within the offering, whether that be giving them more time to complete the degree. I think that that's kind of where we should try to see how we can make that better for the athletes so that they can be successful both academically and on the court or the field because I believe that athletes truly want to have success in both arenas.
Okay. And we want to talk a little bit about prioritizing college athletes' mental and physical health. I am so glad that that there was a panel that talked about that because it's a lot. And CKA developed its Stay Connected framework to assist in navigating these daily stresses that they go through. Cassandra, what are your thoughts on the added pressure money has had on student athletes' mental health?
Yeah, I can see where there is added pressure, right? You're looking around and they see the headlines just like we do, right? This athlete may be signing this seven-figure deal, and you may want some of that for yourself, and you're trying to figure out how can I get it, how can I perform on the field, still perform in the classroom, position myself to be a NIL person, and then if are trying to maybe support your family back home, some athletes feel that pressure of wanting being able to do that. And then just trying to support themselves, have enough money to be able to take care of themselves. So I definitely can see how, all of these things can be just added mental health pressure. I mean, just simply trying to be a student comes with its own pressures. And then you add those other things and it's, tenfold. So I do think that, athletic departments and the school in general should definitely put things in place to help the students with their mental health and not just put them in place, but actually like encourage them to go, or maybe have some check-ins with them to make sure that they are doing okay, mental health wise.
Yeah. And Francois, from your perspective with the international student athletes that you work with, in terms of just their day-to-day stress and mental health, what are some of the challenges an international student athlete has coming over and playing in our college system?
Yeah, because it is a new culture. It is different, and like when you go somewhere else, it is different. And I have a story of a friend. He was playing college basketball Division Two. He told me that each year, back then, each year it was a challenge to make sure that he gets his I-20 safe for the next year. So for a young man coming in a new place and have this challenge each year was very difficult. And I think that's a big challenge for those players because even if they're students, they have to make sure that they get their scholarship, they get the same opportunity for the years for the next year, and it's very stressful. But I think also that it is a big step in the real life, because even if they're young, the life is stressful. You have to fight, you have to compete, and I think it's also a great teaching.
Yeah. All right. This has been great. So, fans, in segment three, we're going to talk about some of the issues going on today that's transferring these theories into practice. We'll be right back on the iCoaches podcast. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Keith Adams, and for years, I've witnessed the struggle student athletes face on how to truly balance the demands of academics and athletics. It's a question that I have dedicated my life to answering. That's why I wrote Finding the Balance, my personal journey to academic and athletic success. It's more than just a book. It is my personal journey, and it is filled with hard earned lessons from decades as a coach, educator, and now president of the CKA Safe Project. Inside, you will find practical advice, real life stories, and a clear roadmap to help student athletes, coaches, and parents navigate the complex world of balancing sports and education. And now I am thrilled to bring this message to a wider audience as a proud member of the Cascade Sports Network. We're partnering to amplify these crucial conversations about student athlete success. I believe every student athlete deserves the opportunity to reach their full potential, both on and off the court and the field. You can purchase your copy directly from our website at www.ckasafeproject.org. Join me and the Cascade Sports Network as we work together to help every student athlete succeed. Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast. In segment three, we're going to talk theory into practice because two things can be true. So, former Tennessee Volunteers quarterback Nico Amavelia is no longer a part of the team. He had an issue with his money, and he thought he was worth more in the marketplace. Tennessee didn't think he was worth more in the marketplace. So Tennessee is in need of a new quarterback, and Nico is in look for another school. And the transfer portal opens sometime later this week, early next week. It's a crazy situation. So, Cassandra, being our NIL guru, what are your thoughts on Nico's situation?
I mean, I think it's a situation that's gonna like let the market factors like show. If the market dictates that he's worth more, he may get another opportunity, at another college. And I mean, he had a pretty successful season last year, so I don't think he'll have a hard time finding and landing at another school. But it just I like some of the things that I think that um it just highlights where college sports is right now. You know, the athletes finally through the transfer portal, they have options and they're playing out their options and seeing where the opportunities can take them.
So, one, I'm not mad at Nico and I'm not mad at Tennessee. This is a business.
Right.
And as a school teacher, 30 years, I teach middle school right now. And one of the things that a mentor of mine has said that was said to her was it is the student athlete's job, or the student in this particular, to find our weakest points and exploit them. So that's classroom management. Middle school kid comes in, he don't really feel like doing social studies or whatever, and he's looking for a way, she's looking for a way not to do it. And that's kind of how I'm seeing the NCAA situation right now, because you didn't create structure. And structures are just boundaries. That's all. Just what are the rules of engagement? Since you didn't put in discipline, which is accountability, how are you going to measure and monitor? And you didn't put in support structures, which is how are we going to help you understand the boundaries and hold everybody accountable? You have this. So this is your creation. So good luck with it. If you can get the bag, go get the bag. Stop telling me about the family. Stop telling me about loyalty. This is your bad, and feel free to try to fix it. But in terms of NIL, we've got Cassandra. Tell me if I'm wrong. Are we at 37 different state laws, or is the number grown? I know it's at least 37.
It's somewhere around there. It's different state laws, and the state laws keep changing. They
Yeah.
keep making addendums and changing different things. Like I know Virginia and I think Colorado made it. I think it's Colorado. I know for sure Virginia has already implemented laws that are going to allow their colleges to engage in revenue sharing with their athletes, regardless of what the outcome of the House settlement is. And really, this situation just highlights what I said earlier: is the need to implement some type of collective bargaining system. Whether it should, I mean, collective bargaining usually equals employment, right? So that's not. I'm not saying that athletes should per se be employees, but they do need a voice in an entity that they can negotiate with these athletes that will allow them to put some parameters, addressing situations like this with the transfer portal. But until they do that, when they do try to implement rules, you may be subject still to further litigation. So
All right. So the transfer portal is a chaotic situation. There are over 2,000 men's basketball players in the transfer portal right now, and the women are closely behind. I believe there's over 1,300 women in the transfer portal. You also have, just like my man FD, you've got international student athletes who are trying to come as well, and the NIL situation is not as good for them. So, Cassandra, what are your thoughts on the transfer portal? I got to hear this.
I think that what you just said about the number of people who are in the transfer portal, one thing that I think is not really talked about is the effect that that has on the high school recruiting class, right? So because coaches, they look at the portal, so I think it has by default, it's had to change the way that coaches recruit, right? Because everybody wants to win at the end of the day. So, are you going to look for the new high school athlete transitioning to college, which who may be great, or are you going to go and get this player who may have already had success at like a mid-major school, maybe even got to their conference's final or something like that? Are you going to bet on that player? So I think that that's something that should be discussed a little more is the effect that the transfer portal is having on the college recruiting. Um,
Yeah.
you know, as far as the transfer portal itself, I think the athletes should be able to transfer, but I think that they need to transfer with some consideration, right? One of the things that we talked about at the symposium was how you progress academically if you transfer 3 times, because we all know that college credits don't transfer just equally to each school, just like that, right? So I think that that's something else that should be considered. While saying I have no issue with athletes being able to transfer, they should be able to, but I think that they need to do it in an educated and methodical fashion.
Yeah. So, Francois, you're hearing all of this. You're in beautiful Paris, France. You're working with basketball players, and you have been a women's coach as well. When you hear all of this, how do you react from your international lens?
I just say that it's gonna be a difficult, difficult role for all of them, and they have to be. They understand that it is becoming more difficult. The situation is a little bit chaotic because of these new rules. But like I always say, the you have to for players who want to play in this situation, they have to find a way. They have to fix it. They have to be different, and maybe and like I said, said all team want to win, and the coach want to win, the organization want to win, and for my player, I would say that if you want to be different in this situation, you have to have to be a player that the team need you to win, and that's all I can say about that.
All right. So as we close, personal shout out. Grambling got a good one. Grambling State is hiring former Florida A&M University coach Patrick Crary II as their school's new head coach. Crary is a veteran NAIA coach, also coached right down the road from me at Washington Adventist. Spent 1 year at FAMU and had a miserable experience. This is Keith talking. Between admission, the administration, athletics, and just not being respected, man, you didn't do a good dude right. So Grambling got a good one, and I just want to send Pat my best. Got a chance to see one of his assistants, who's a former Paint Branch Panther, Fred Limas. Much love to Fred. It is always good to see him, and I just wish you nothing but the best, because that situation last year, you made it work despite all the challenges. So, on behalf of my cavalcade of stars here, this is good. I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and/or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, also seen on the Cascade Sports Network. And we will see you on the sidelines. Until next time, take care.
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach FRANCHIZE. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches Podcast.